Okocha, Samson Shaibu, and Melchizedec Onobe. They are all from the Department of Mass Communication at Bingham University in Nigeria. Please, I move the floor to you guys. Great. And could you just tilt your smartphone to the side so we can see it? Great. You're ready to go.
Yeah. So once again, it is a pleasure for us from Africa, Nigeria, Bingham University to take part in this international workshop. Knowing fully aware of the new normalcy and the World Wide Web and the issues of fake news, what I and my team did, I'm Dr. Desmond Okocha, working alongside the HOD of the department, Professor Samson Shaibu and Professor Melchizedec. We try to x-ray the multidimensional implications of institutionalized fake news and disinformation on Nigerian pluralistic state. And the reason we did is because Nigeria is a miniature of the African continent, and Nigeria is an emerging democracy, a country with more than 500 tribes, with two major dominant religions, Islam and Christianity. And there is this quest for social dominance, whether at the political level, at the cultural level, at the economic level, and in other spheres of life. And with the emergence of technology, it has become a weapon for the quest for this dominance. Therefore, this study aimed at seeing the role that fake news, vis-a-vis the instrumentality of the media, especially the social media, has played in creating a wider divide and tension across board. But why the issue of fake news is particularly of interest in Nigeria when compared to other parts of the world is because the degree of sanity, the degree of ethics, the degree of morality in politics is very, very low in Nigeria and in Africa. Therefore, the laws that are visible and effective in Europe, in America, and other parts of the world to curb, to penalize the usage or the practice of fake news, information, and misinformation are not applicable in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you see that fake news promoters are only penalized when they are not part of the government in power, or when the fake news does not favor the government that is in power. So for the essence of this presentation, for the introduction, for use or misuse, the concept of fake news marries news, which views sometimes as journalistically processed information using subjectively elemental values to treat or accept informative norms as sacred. So we see that many times the issue of fake news in Nigeria emanates even from official media platforms. As we know now that many of the mainstream newspapers and media outlets have migrated to have online presence. So the problem of fake news in Nigeria is not just about Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but the problem is that many times they use the instrumentality of the conventional media. So since the concept of fake news became engrafted into news as overlive in public and scholarly circle, the chemistry of news changed as the term became the most popular word in 2016. And we saw what happened with the Donald Trump regime, where the issue of fake news became very much prominent, became more toxic, and then became more debatable, because now sometimes when we look at fake news, the question is, who is even defining fake news? When the political actors are defining fake news, many a times it's not fake news, it's only a news that is not in their favor or does not portray them in good light. So there seems to be a normative way of looking at fake news that resonates with literature, which is a summary of how the phenomenon is constructed. If any information has a sense or taint of disinformation, falsehood, rumors, conspiracy theory, and manipulation, it is characterized as fake news. However, general narratives may be squared by who is defining what and with what intent, and this can also be acculturated by crimes that in different societies on their normative tradition and orientation. Let's now contextualize these in light of Nigeria. So fundamentally, in Nigeria, which is a nation of multi-ethno-cultural groups, the issue of fake news is a social enterprise. It's also a cultural enterprise, because you have to go back to look at history. In the history of Africa, we also have studied some element of anthropology of history, pre-colonial era. Our kings did encourage the people we call griots or sacrifices or praise singers. And these praise singers, all they do is to eulogize the aristocrats, the ruling class, and the rest. And we see that our democracy or political system is only an extension of our monarch system. That is why you see in Africa, when someone is in power, it is difficult for them to exit power. You've heard of what happened recently, just a few days ago in Chad, where somebody has been in power for 30 years. We saw what happened in Burkina Faso. We saw what happened in Libya. We saw what happened in Zimbabwe. So therefore, when any news platform castigates, critique any of the ruling class, it is termed fake news. But when you sing their praise, even for what they've not done, then it is seen to be a true news. So Nigeria, although within the flex and flywheels of democracy, has a huge handover of autocratic mannerism exhibited by the ruling aristocrats. A major characteristics of government operating under that god is secrecy and officialdom. And also in Nigeria and Africa, there is very huge enterprise of secrecy. The government does things and they do not want the public to know, especially when those things can be questioned and ought to be questioned and ought to be debated. So when an independent journalist, when citizens are able to investigate and get their information and push out to the public, the government comes out and says it is fake news. And that is one element of classification of fake news as far as Nigeria is concerned. I want to do a quick rundown from our research and from the online discussions we've had of many instances where it was the government or the machineries of the government that was promoting fake news. Right now, the communication minister of Nigeria, he has been linked to have some soft spots or connection with Islamic fundamentalists, to be a supporter of Boko Haram, to be a supporter of ISIS. And you see journalists that have dug into the archives and brought out research to show that this man was unaccomplished. But what has the government done? The government has kept mute. The government has also hired and recruited some persons to come to the media to debunk such very obvious research. And the government will turn those reports that places the minister in bad light as fake news. We've seen instances where our military right now in Nigeria are engaging the outlawed Boko Haram insurgents in the northern part of the country. And many times when Boko Haram tend to be at the winning side, killing and maiming our militaries and citizens. And the mainstream media reports that. The government comes back to debunk that and terms it fake news. Other times, the military and the government agencies can equally present old news as new happenings, utilizing pictures. And when the citizens or journalists or investigators call their attention or refute them for such claims, the government has never apologized. And so if you look at the screen, you will see a case where there was a national publication that says court orders National Assembly, that is Nigerian Parliament, to begin impeachment of Buhari. But the truth was that was fake news, and nobody was penalized. And I want to bring it to raw that as a nation, no government official has ever been prosecuted, has ever been dismissed, has ever been reprimanded, has ever tendered public apology for promoting, for disseminating fake news, whether through formal channels or through social media. We also have cases where school children were kidnapped by bandits and Boko Haram members, and it was on the papers, but the government came out and said it was fake news. It took them a long time to come and acknowledge that that actually happened. We also see where the BBC report referred to some images on social media falsely attributed to the violence in Plateau State, a state in Nigeria, which resulted in reprisal killings. But we discovered that this picture was actually taken from some other places. It was an old event, but what happened, there was no apology. The BBC report cited other examples of fake news, like the gruesome image of a woman face down in a pool of blood with a dripping shoulder wound purported to be from recent attacks, which retweeted hundreds of times on Twitter. The picture turned out to have first appeared online in 2011 in a story about domestic violence in Nigeria. We also see with the recent issue of COVID-19 pandemic, many churches, out of religious excitement and whatever it is, have been putting out fake news, false information, unverified, unscientific. Many have linked the COVID-19 pandemic to Brigade 5G initiative, to cloud computing, to the end of the world, to China, and to a host of other unverified hosts. But so when institutions, whether it's governmental, whether it's religious, whether it's corporate, become the platform for disseminating or even generating fake news, it becomes very much problematic. And this is what we have found to be the case in Nigeria. There have been cases of kidnap issues in Nigeria in various states of the country, and then the government would debunk that it's not true, and after some time come out to say, oh, we are sorry, we didn't get information right, but there has been no reprimanding of anyone as far as this is concerned. Also, at the onset of the COVID in 2020, from around April, the government brought in some Chinese medical doctors to come to Nigeria. At first, they denied it, that they were not coming to help out. And finally, when the news came out, it was equally termed fake news. I've also seen a situation where the academic staff union of universities, that is a conglomeration of unions across universities in this country, they went on strike in demand for better standard of living in terms of salaries, accommodation, and other allowances. They had a meeting with the minister, and the meeting ended in a disarray. But the minister came to the public and claimed that they have agreed and everything has been settled. When the union came and debunked the minister never came out to apologize. Also, sometime late last year, they also called the NSAS movement. It was a movement engineered by young people asking for an end to police brutality. And then they occupied the Shaibu point, one of the toll gates in this country, and the military went there and killed several young people. The government of Nigeria came out and said nobody died. So we'll see that the recent social movement under the rubrics of NSAS campaign had a similar trajectory of institutionalized misinformation from government information mill. The government denied engaging the protesters when evidence of its false claims became irrefutable. It represented itself differently with no apologies to Nigeria and the world. Also, but then what are the implications of this? Because these fake news are in different categories. There are fake news that are in relation to government activities. There are fake news that are religious. There are fake news that are communal. There are fake news that are set out to create disaffection. So number one, what we see in Nigeria is as from our ethnographic research and the in-depth research we've done, in-depth interview where we interviewed some prominent scholars and opinion leaders in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. We've seen that what fake news does is it causes disorientation. Right now, there is a breakdown of trust between Muslims and Christians in Nigeria. And the major source of this is because of the news, the information that is being pushed out to the public. So this also brings lack of accountability, because anybody in government, once you are in support of the ruling government, you can pass any information to the public, whether it is true or unverified. And why it is also serious in Nigeria is because, like, sometimes you will say, okay, you verify the source, it's come an authentic source. In Nigeria, fake news come very much from authentic sources, whether through press releases, when they are done with the Federal Executive Council meeting, the highest meeting of political office holders, our minister and the president, they release the information. Just last week, a governor came out and claimed that the Central Bank of Nigeria has printed 50 billion naira to share. The finance minister came and debunked that. 2 days later, the governor of the central bank came and said it is a duty of the central bank to print money. The question is, who do we believe? And we know that in Nigeria as a country, there are about 203.5 million active mobile phone lines, over 20 million people on social media, and about 80% of the population using WhatsApp. So we can tell and see the gravity of the reach of this news when not controlled. Sometime last year, the government wanted to pass a social media bill, and the bill was meant to curb activities of people on social media. Citizens came out and protested against that, saying we do not need any new bill. What we need is the enactment and the functionality of already existing bills. Then going forward, from the feedback we got from the online survey and from the in-depth interview, we saw that most of the respondents were of the opinion that there was no need to create new law. What Nigeria needs is the enforcement of existing laws. It is necessary that journalists first rise above their personal biases, because in Nigeria we see situations where journalists are lean or thinking to a political party. Most of the major newspapers in this country are owned by political actors, and that makes objectivity, accuracy, verification difficult for the media houses. So the journalists themselves must rise above personal biases and then arm themselves with skills to differentiate between facts and fictions. They must consider the source, as we all will agree to, check the author, check supporting sources, check the date, confirm it is a joke, and check for biases and ask the expert. Nigeria needs social media companies to take necessary steps to protect their users from fake news and harmful half-truths, as we've seen that they've done in other places like in Australia and some other places where WhatsApp and Facebook will place some underline tags to say this is fake news or it's not verified. We'll see what's associated with COVID-19. So we'd like to suggest too that institutional heads and leaders should take the lead in de-escalating information that are baseless and have overall negative consequences on the polity. Government and non-governmental agencies, tech giants like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram should motivate people crusading against fake news, because some persons have made so much money in promoting fake news. What of those who are fighting and laboring to ensure that fake news is not allowed to thrive? So there must be a way equally to support and promote them. So this is basically what we have looked at as a country. So we'd like to wrap up by simply saying that in Nigeria and elsewhere, there need to be new modalities in addressing the issues of fake news, because fake news in this country do not majorly or principally come from the citizens, but from institutions, whether governmental and or non-governmental. Also in Nigeria, there has never been a single prosecution of a government or institutional source who has promoted fake news, except if that source is anti-government or not in favor of the ruling party. So on this note, we will bring our discussion to a conclusion and open the floor for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Question and question.
Okay, so our first speaker is our first question comes from Karen.
Hi, thank you so much for that really, really fascinating talk. I really learned a lot from it. I had a question about the problems with authoritarian governments using the panic about fake news to their advantage. So David Cody has this really interesting paper where he argues that academics should stop talking about fake news, because by talking about the problem of fake news, we're creating a discourse that plays into the hands of authoritarian governments and does exactly what you're suggesting is happening in Nigeria, which allows them to discredit media sources. And so I'm kind of curious, you know, given that Nigeria is dealing with both disinformation coming from government sources and also from the public, what do you think is the best way to handle that really difficult question of not fueling this panic about fake news in a way that encourages governments to be able to use this language of fake news to discredit people who want to tell the truth that opposes their interests?
Yes, thank you very much. For Nigeria, there is no fast rule as to a solution, because Nigeria is a complex system where the ruling class look at some of the sensitive issues in the country if the government in power, probably a governor or a president, if he feels that the only way it will control a certain region of the country is by bringing religious disaffection, they use that. So for us to address issues of fake news information in Nigeria, our government must be honest with themselves. The government must set out to serve the people and not the people serving them. The government must set out to see that leadership is not a monarchy system anymore. It's a place you come to serve, because our government in Nigeria, they are not out to serve. There is this quest to grab power. So if you a good example, going back to 2015, when we had a change of regime, what the opposition did was to get experts from the US and other parts of the world whose major function was mainly propaganda. And what did they do was to engineer and come up with stories to discredit the ruling party. And through that, they were able to get the power. That's why 2015 was the first time in the history of Nigeria where an incumbent president lost an election. And the biggest weapon that made that possible was because of fake news. So the opposition, they use fake news to dislodge and remove a sitting government, as seeing the potency of the weapon of fake news. So for them to sustain stay in power, they are furthering the utilization of these unethical practice of fake news. So to address it, we need a government that sees itself as serving the people, taking the lead, because citizens cannot fully address issues of fake news. Those that have gone to jail in Nigeria for fake news, in quotes, are those that the government have termed to be promoting news that are not in favor of the government. So it's a complex situation for us in Nigeria.
Last question from Rahimat. Please.
Hello, good afternoon, please.
Yes.
You're
I'm
welcome.
a lecturer at the Lagos State University School of Communication.
Wow, you're really welcome.
Yes, I want to commend the speakers on their interaction so far. I just want to chip in that beyond government, there should be efforts there should be increased awareness on media literacy, on improving media literacy skills for the general public. There should be greater efforts among media executives, fact checkers, for increased media literacy for the general population, so that people know how to identify fake news, and by being informed on the likelihood or on the triggers or the factors or the possible likelihood of an information being fake news, they are better able to understand the need for them to actually pause and resonate over a particular idea before they share such information further. So beyond government, citizens should also be empowered to be able to identify fake news and be able to move forward from there and stop the spread of this fake news. And where they have shared such information that turns out to be fake previously, there is need for them to be encouraged, for them to actually share perhaps the debunker that has been done about that particular information, so that people are aware and people are able to actually share information that they discovered that were fake initially, and further share the rejoinder maybe perhaps the fact check that has been done on a particular information that you've shared previously. So people should be empowered to actually be informed on identifying fake news, the element of fake news, and how they can stop the spread beyond government regulation. So it's not just about government. That's just the bottom line of the argument, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I was just before you answer, Desmond, I just say that I just mentioned that Sarit gave a talk yesterday about ways to educate people to identify fake news, and I think this connects very well to your comment. Desmond, the last words.
Yeah, my last word is we are so much appreciative of this conference, and to address fake news, we need to borrow leave from the various speakers. We'll see what the government can do, what citizens can do, what civil societies can do, and even as individual researchers and academia, what we can equally do. And with this synergy, we can address, because if it's not addressed in a country like Nigeria, it can take the country down the drain. But with collaborative efforts, we can rescue the country by expunging fake news and its toxic nature from our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Desmond, and also Samson and Melchizedec. Melchizedec is here. Let's reconvene.